I know of actually two other residents in Norfolk County that would like to do something similar with their property, and they haven't been so lucky to have a positive recommendation or an easy path laid out by the planning department. Why is this such a difficult process for people to look at renovating or building new, even if it's not a second dwelling, if it's maybe on a piece of severed farmland? Does that make sense?
Through the mayor, so if a house is severed from a farm, if you can't build on the retained farmland, that's from the provincial policy statement. To build a second dwelling, generally we don't support it because it is just adding more potential conflicts into the agricultural area. In this case, and with a dairy farm, it's done in some townships just allow second dwellings because they have so many dairy farms. I believe maybe Norwich Township might do that, or somewhere in Oxford. So it's a case-by-case basis, basically. In this case, there's good justification for it, and there's already two houses on the property.
I think just a couple comments from me on that. I think that we're seeing, though, from tonight that, we have to start looking for unique solutions to different situations. And as people spoke, as we have an aging population, that second dwelling might not be for additional farm help. It might be to have somebody else living nearby, or whatever the case may be. So I think that we need to start looking at this not just from an additional farm help point of view, but there are other reasons that are quite valid for people to want to move forward. I know of the situation in particular that Councillor Martin is speaking about. Councillor Columbus.
Madam Mayor, just to add to that, that was why I asked the question about how many head he milks and about the land base, because the report only said, so it didn't show what the viability of this operation was, but having been involved with agriculture most of my life, that was the reason I asked the question, was because he has proven viability of the operation. Okay. Plus, I think he mentioned he's got a robotic milker, which is very, very expensive.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay. Would somebody like to move? Was that a hand, Councillor Huffman? Did I see a hand? Okay. Councillor Ravitz.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 103 of our...
I'm sorry, I'm slow on the draw here. I need to close the meeting first. Mover, Councillor Van Passen. Seconder, Councillor Columbus. All in favor? Back to you.
My apologies. I would like to move the recommendation as printed, DCS report 19-08, as printed in our agenda on page 103.
Seconder, Councillor Martin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. Just one final point on that note. It's also, all of these additional buildings are increasing our tax asset base here in Norfolk County. So this is a good thing. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming. We're going to tax them if it is. Okay, the next report, staff report, DCS 19-10. Application has been received to construct an accessory storage building requiring a relief of 84.35 square meters from the maximum permitted usable floor area of 55 square meters in the R3 zone to allow for 139.35 square meters. Michael and Christy Banks have put forth the application affecting the lands described as 15 Ellis Street. I'll now open the public meeting on DCS 19-10. Mr. Collier or Mr. Vaughn, will you please present your report to council?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, members of the public. This is a zoning bylaw amendment application to add special provision 14.955 to the subject lands in order to permit the construction of a 139.35 square meter accessory building. The subject lands are located at 15 Ellis Street near Front Road in the urban area of Port Rowan. The lands currently contain a single detached dwelling and one storage shed, which is proposed to be removed and replaced with the proposed structure. There are urban residential lands surrounding the property, with some institutional and commercial uses located immediately to the west. Those properties front onto College Street. The proposed accessory building is considered compatible with surrounding land uses, and 5 neighbors have signed letters of support, which the applicants did submit at the time that they made their application. The applicants are requesting a storage building of this scale to store an RV and other vehicles and other personal belongings on their own property. This application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms with the Norfolk County official plan policies and represents good planning. Planning staff support this application and recommend that it be approved.
Hello. I'm Christy Banks. We live at 15 Ellis Street. And that's my husband, Michael, who just won't come up. You didn't have any questions. Did you have questions? Is that what I was up here for?
Just if you have anything to say to council in support?
No, we need a big building. We have to store our RV and just clean up my backyard. So the stuff is put away, which would be nice.
Another taxable asset base for Norfolk County.
Yes.
Councilors, do you have any questions? Okay, no, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of the applicant? Okay, anyone that would like to speak in opposition or just in general? Seeing none, anything further from council? Okay, may I have a verbal motion to close the public meeting? Councillor Rabbit, seconded by Councillor Martin. All in favor? Would someone like to move the staff recommendation or propose an alternative? Councillor Geisens, seconded by Councillor Michelli. All in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Taylor, if I've been missing you, my apologies. I just realized that screen as you completely blocked. We're going to have to work on the screens next. I think we might just get rid of them. Now we're moving to staff report DCS 19-11. This is an application that's been received to rezone the subject lands from residential type 1 zone R1-A to residential type 2 zone R2 to facilitate the construction of a semi-detached dwelling. Douglas Allen and Pamela Rose Nobes have put forth the application affecting the lands described as 819 Main Street. I'll now open the public meeting on DCS 19-11. Mr. Vaughn, will you please present your report?
Sorry about that, I couldn't see. The subject lands are 1,052 square meters in size and front on the west side of Main Street in the urban area of Port Dover. They're presently vacant. A single detached dwelling was recently removed. The lands to the north, south, and east contain single detached dwellings, as well as semi-detached dwellings, duplex dwellings, with downtown Port Dover just to the southeast.
Councilors, any questions? Was that all?
Just finishing it up with the applications consistent with policies of the PPS. It conforms to our policies of our official plan, and staff are recommending approval.
My apologies. I thought you were done there. There was a big pause. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Through you to staff, to Mr. Vaughn. Are you familiar with the letter that's attached here? Are you able to speak to the old train tracks and street drain?
Yeah, through the mayor, I am not familiar with the train tracks. My understanding of the letter is that there are concerns with grading and with water drainage on site. When the owner of this property comes forward for a permit to construct this semi-detached dwelling, grading will be something that's required and looked at through the building permit process. So it will be addressed at that time. You're welcome.
Councilor Van Passen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question to staff to make sure I understand it. A semi-detached, that's like what's on the other side of Main Street where it looks like one big house, but it's really two? Is that what they are?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Passen, that's correct. It's a house, basically two dwellings side by side.
Nothing further? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak in opposition or just in general? Anything further from council? May I have, oh, Councillor Martin. Okay, may I have a verbal motion to close the public meeting? Councillor Taylor. And a seconder? Councillor Ravitz. All in favor? Okay. Would somebody like to move the staff recommendation or propose an alternative? Move the staff recommendation, Councillor Martin, and seconded by, oh, Councillor Columbus. All in favor? And that's been carried. Okay, next, we're moving to item, I'm wondering the best way to do this right now. Yeah, would everybody like to take a break probably at this point? I think most of our audience is left now, so why don't we we'll try to keep it short enough, but long enough to have a little bite to eat. Maybe, let's say 25 minutes, so it's now 7:08, so let's say 7:30 if everybody could try to be back here, 7:35? Perfect. I'm so hungry, I'm ready.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Missouri beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just a place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more.
What I love most about Norfolk County, I think, would be the vastness of the county, how it's big and there's breathing space, and there are so many little pockets of beauty, natural beauty.
I love the seasons here. The springtime, the rain falling on the earth. I'm a farmer, so I enjoy those aspects of it, the smell of the rain. The summer times, we have beautiful, warm summers here.
You have such pristine water here. You have some of the finest cold water streams in Ontario with Big Creek and Youngs Creek and others that produce great fishing.
Norfolk is very heavily forested, beautiful color in the autumn. The sun shines very brightly here in the wintertime, so I love the 4 distinct seasons we have here in Norfolk County.
What people find remarkable about Norfolk County, I think, is that our sense of community and us working together.
I think of us as a little bit of, we have these ecospheres in our store. They're these self-sustaining little balls that, you know, completely take care of themselves. We're a little bit like that, you know, in our area. We have so much here.
My kids grow up knowing what it's like to produce a piece of fruit or produce some food, some vegetables, and put them on the table, how much effort that takes. And I think that's important.
when people come into the shop, we pull out the map and we show them the wineries and the breweries, and we tell them about the local dining in town, and we'll tell them about the lavender farm, and along the way show them produce stands that they could stop to pick up some goodies.
Everything that we want to do socially and all of our extracurricular activities are right here. And when you join groups, these people they'll want to get to know you immediately. That's our nature. We're curious and we're supportive and we're interested.
Sometimes opportunity just kind of happens when you're talking to someone and having a conversation with someone here in Norfolk. The next thing you know, you're collaborating with them on a project or activity.
The amount of people within our community that support our business is outstanding, because it's a give and take relationship. If you support everyone else, they will support you, and it makes our community that much stronger and that much better.
You know, I think that working with the local businesses here, everyone's very welcoming. Every time I meet a new business owner, and I love to go to new stores and new restaurants that open up and introduce ourselves and welcome them to the community. It's easy to fall in love with Norfolk County.
My advice to a family that's thinking about moving here is to come and visit. Come and spend a week. Come and experience everything that we have to offer, because you're going to find an amazing quality of life.
You're 10 minutes away from a beach. You're 5 minutes away from a dog park. You know, there's so much opportunity in an area like this for young entrepreneurs, young families, even, you know, senior entrepreneurs that are doing that as well.
I'm very happy. I'm lucky, very lucky I can be here, It's a good place to raise family too.
We don't have this sort of slick veneer over us. We're really comfortable in our own skin, and artists are making art because they love to make art, and musicians are writing songs because they love to write songs.
And just because you're not from here doesn't mean that you can't embrace what makes Norfolk great. Sort of our diversity, the wonderful landscapes here.
And it's just a great area. You're going to meet great people. You're going to have a supportive environment. We can compete on an international stage with anybody. And that's how we have to start looking at the world.
You just have to be willing to work hard, realize the potential that there is here, and just put yourself to work and create that opportunity for yourself.
I found that as a young entrepreneur, I was given every opportunity I could want. Just put yourself out there. Go to local events, and you're going to bump into all kinds of people that are going to be, important business connections to you.
Everybody's so willing to help somebody else out. I think that's the best thing about even being a business owner in Norfolk County.
We're a small community, but there's so much support here, whether it's a restaurant or ecotourism. We just have this appetite, and if you've got a great idea, you've got a willing community that's going to get behind your idea.
Some of the advice that I would give entrepreneurs coming to Norfolk County would be to think outside of the Norfolk box, but don't forget what's in the Norfolk box, because we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of great people, a lot of great opportunities.
Norfolk County.
Entrepreneurs grow here.
Norfolk County.
Ideas grow here.
Norfolk County.
You grow here.
You grow here.
You grow here.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk.
Okay, are we almost, we're almost all set? I lost Councillor Van Passen. He just came in. Where'd he go? There he is. All right, if we're all set to begin again, we've got, we're going to scroll back in the agenda to number 8 that follow the communication, the approval of the minutes. So before you, there's 3 sets of council minutes for adoption. If council members, I think what we should do perhaps in this case is move through each of them individually and deal with each as they come. So first before us are the council meeting minutes from December the 18th. Are there page 31? Where's the motion for that?
There's no motion.
Oh.
It's just for errors or omissions.
What's this for?
Those are for the next section, item reports of committee.
Okay. Any errors or omissions? Okay, do I have a mover to approve the minutes? Councillor Rabbits? Okay, oh, sorry. Councillor Rabbits, I guess I just learned here, I guess we don't need a mover and a seconder for that to approve them. Any errors or omissions then in any of the other minutes? For the special council open and closed minutes, or item C, the council rate and capital budget meeting minutes? Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the minutes from the January 8th to 9th capital and rate budget meeting, we had discussions on the proposed rate operating budget, and we were provided with a package that showed last year's approved budget of $17,464,200 and a projected surplus of $458,600. At some point during the deliberations, staff suggested the forecasted surplus would be $519,900 on the water side, $428,700 on the waste side, for a total surplus of $948,600. We also had a lengthy discussion on the merits of the Walton report and the concept of fairness to all. During the deliberations, I had suggested there was no need to raise the rates, that we could try to achieve the requested budget increase by savings accrued by implementing the strategy suggested, and if we were not successful in achieving the full amount, we would be able to draw the shortfall from the rate stabilization reserve and give the users back some of their own money. That is what I believe to be the consensus around the table. That is what I believe was the intended by the motion put on the floor, and that is what I believe council voted to approve. I'm obviously incorrect in my recollections of the events of that day, and I apologize to staff and to council for that, and for my failure to articulate my thoughts more clearly. I also apologize to ratepayers for any false hopes that I may have caused by my errors. But I would respectfully ask that the motion be withdrawn. It's item number 12 on page 58 of our agenda, and that my name be removed as the mover, as it is in its current form. It is definitely not what I had intended. I And I'll ask the clerk whether that's possible.
Thank you, Councillor Van Pass.
So this is unfortunate. It happens infrequently with councils where they pass a motion and they vote on it and it's properly carried, and then they realize that they didn't understand exactly the ramifications of what they voted on. The process, though, under the approval of the minutes is just errors or omissions. So this is actually what did happen. The revised one, there was a slight error in the number, but this is actually what happened at the meeting and what was approved by council and ratified by the confirming bylaw, which makes it law. There is an option to defer the rate bylaw tonight and deal with it at a future meeting. And when we get to the notices of motion, if you ask for a notice to reconsider this, we can go into a reconsideration of item 12 of the rate budget, the capital budget meetings, and then we can have that discussion at that time. It takes a 2/3 vote, but obviously if council members share that they weren't sure what was voted upon, we can do that.
Councillor Van Pass.
Well, I would argue that the motion is not correct. One section, the water and wastewater rate as presented on January the 8th, we had already agreed to not take the presented amount for the septic rates. There were other changes to what was originally presented in our document.
Those, I believe, were presented as separate motions. So the capital and rate, that final motion approving the rate budget was separate from the holding tank and septic motion that I had moved. I would be willing, I mean, we are back in here for several days next week. I also think there was a great amount of confusion that was created at that point in time as, in my view, that we tried to rush through things and get things approved without a full understanding. And one was this issue of the $900,000 surplus and whether it had in fact been collected from the residents or whether this was just fictitious money that hadn't been spent and so on. I think we know now that it is in fact money that was collected. There is a $900,000 surplus. So for myself, I would support, if you wanted to make a motion, to defer this for review at the next meeting.
I would much appreciate the ability to do that if the clerk could just help me out on how to do that.
The challenge is the motion in the revised minutes is what was read out and voted upon. So we can, tonight I can draft up a notice of motion for you, and we can have that presented, and if council wants to waive the rules, we can consider it as a full motion and reconsider today. You could also reconsider, you could defer the reconsideration till the budget deliberations next week if you want to have it at the same time. But I think the notice of motion is the first step, and I can draft that up for you when we get to that point so that you'd have it in hand and we can just get it fairly quickly addressed.
Councillor Columbus.
Councillor Van Passen done with his request.
Councillor Van Passen?
I'm still trying. Mine's with respect to the rate budget too.
Okay.
And I know I might be confused, but the way I comprehended everything that we did that day was that the holding tanks and the septage was going to remain at $12, and that because we're not raising the rate to the 14, that would end up being on the single-family residences. That's the way I interpret it. And I remember we had a little back and forth verbiage on that. So I'd like to ask Mr. Johnson just exactly what are the facts. I read the Simcoe Reformer, and I got the wrong impression of what we did. So can you clarify exactly where we're at with this rate budget?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Columbus. That's a tricky question considering what Councillor Van Passen just mentioned. However, if we were to pass the bylaw as it's read today without deferring, the holding and septic tank rates are frozen at the 2018 levels. The rates for water and wastewater are going up by for the average user, 2.4%. It works out to $1.95 per month. And getting back to the holding tank and the septic tank rates, because, just to further answer your question, because those rates are frozen, whatever shortfall in the revenue acquired from those rates in order to pay for that system would have to be made up by the rest of the ratepayers of Norfolk County.
Do you have an indication of what amount that would be, roughly?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Columbus, the amount of revenue that we would not be collecting from the holding and the holding tank and the septic tank rates is approximately $30,900. So that amount essentially was added to what we call the rate requirement. So it was, for example, if it was $18,500,000, now we need $18,530,000 from the ratepayers.
Thank you for that clarification.
I think we need to be careful here before we go down a road and get into big discussions with this as well. But just so we're clear, we haven't been provided with an inventory of how many users and so on. So this argument of the subsidization piece, this is all based on a consultant's report that's 4 years old at this point, without any reevaluation in it. So I think we have to be really careful that because we have frozen some numbers that we're saying, well, now the others are subsidizing. That is not necessarily true, because it's based on a 4-year-old consultant report that assumed an increase in rates. So, but anyway, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with this. If there's any other errors and omissions with the minutes, then I'll come back to you, Councillor Van Passen. Okay, Councillor Van Passen.
That we reconsider this at the rate budget at the budget meetings on the 23rd.
So if you'd like to bring that forward, my understanding from the clerk right now, he will draft something up when we get to the notices of motion. He'll have that prepared for you then, and then you can move that motion at that time.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this point then, we would simply adopt the council minutes as is, and then we will proceed rectifying that issue later on in the meeting. So I just need to get my bearings here. Number 8 is completed, then we jumped over. We've got number 9 as well now to deal with the reports of committees. We've got 4 reports, the council and committee open and closed minutes from January the 8th, 2019. I have a motion moved by Councillor Geisen, seconded by Councillor Rabbits, that the minutes of the council in committee meeting of January the 8th, 2019 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Next is the Norfolk County Agricultural Advisory Board minutes from December the 19th, 2018. Is there any discussion on this one at all? Councillor Van Passen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question on process. There are several recommendations or motions made at these meetings. How does those motions come to council to get carried further?
Through you, I have them typed up on motion sheets if you so desire to move on.
Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I serve as the council representative on the Agricultural Advisory Board, and I spoke to the president or the chairman of that organization the other day, and he wonders whether I'll have to ask the clerk, can we put those motions on the floor today, Mr. Clerk, for a recommendation from council to go up the ladder, or do you want a deputation from him to review these recommendations?
Certainly, I'm mindful of council's time, so anything to avoid deputations, I have them here if there is one you specifically want to move.
Okay, so when that comes up, I'd like to move each of those individual recommendations on behalf of the Ag Advisory Board.
Okay. I just have one question, if it's okay, Councillor Columbus. And this is actually for Mr. Vaughn. I see here on page 73 the change to the cannabis policy. Mr. Vaughn reported that council changed its policy on sensitive land uses, that cannabis production must be buffered from for the purposes of encouraging cannabis tourism. The policy change enables the owners of properties to have the cannabis-related uses if wanted. That Mr. Fournier expressed concerns about the policy restricting a cannabis farmer's ability to house full-time staff who need to be living on the property or nearby to respond to emergencies 24/7 all year round. Mr. Vaughn said that there may be some solutions available. So I thought that was interesting because that actually goes with what we were talking about before, but we didn't discuss a residential house if it was there for the purposes of the facility itself. So when you bring that forward to council, perhaps we could see some verbiage that might address that issue as well.
And through you, Madam Mayor, that's exactly what we're doing. We're adding while a single detached dwelling is already a permitted use, the issue is that there's a buffer requirement from a single detached dwelling, so we're removing that specifically from the cannabis production processing use so that they can house their workers on the farm where those production and processing facilities are. And we're doing that because what we're finding out from these business owners is that they need a lot of workers, and that those workers are having a hard time finding housing and having a hard time finding affordable housing. So that is one option that we're bringing to council later this month for consideration, and then we have some other ideas as well moving forward in the future.
So just, I see kind of some faces. I think it's a similar situation with Wayland. Now, obviously, given the size of that operation, that's a little bit different, but there was a farmhouse there on the property, and it's been turned into an office now. But I kind of saw your look, Councillor Huffman. It would just be in terms of if it was on the property itself with the production facility, so it would be those people that would be using that house for that purpose. It's not, we're not talking about neighboring properties. Those setback requirements would still be there. I think that's fantastic and forward thinking, and I'm glad to see that in there. Okay, so we'll proceed with the three motions. I'll read them out, Councillor Columbus. The first is that the Agriculture Advisory Board recommends that Norfolk County Council continue to push the Province of Ontario to add lot relocation policies in the official plan, and that Norfolk County Council correspond with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to clarify the reasoning for removing the wording from the Norfolk County official plan, and further that the Mayor raise the issue at the Roma Conference with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Van Passen. Any discussions on the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it says the Roma Conference, and I think that happens in...
It's the end of this month.
Right. Are you going to that?
I am.
Okay, so do you have a meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs?
Believe it or not, actually I do.
That's wonderful. Okay, so we are right there. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to put that there. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Just so you're aware, I didn't actually submit the request to speak to him on this basis, but I will make sure that I throw it in there as well.
Sure you will.
Okay, next, the motion is whereas Norfolk County's Lakeshore Special Policy Area allows for a broader list of diversified uses for farmers in that area compared to farmers inland, and whereas permitting farmers inland to have more uses available as of right at their disposal would provide more opportunity for business viability and revenue generation, therefore be it resolved that the Agriculture Advisory Board recommends that Norfolk County Council direct staff to investigate policy options for expanding the as-of-right uses in the Lakeshore Special Policy Area to farming areas inland, and that a more permissive policy for expanded opportunities inland be brought forward to Council at its earliest opportunity. These are excellent. Any discussions? Or sorry, and a mover first, I guess I should say. Councillor Van Passen, second of Councillor Martin. Any discussions? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, the third one. Whereas a letter was sent to Norfolk County Council from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing asking for insights and recommendations on the provincial approvals process, wherein the minister specifically asked on how to increase the supply and mix of housing, drive down costs, ensure approvals are in place within 1 year, and to reduce red tape and regulatory hurdles. And whereas the Agriculture Advisory Board has identified that current provincial policy only permits for 4 unrelated people to live in a single detached dwelling,